Yo, have you heard about Anchor? It's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. It's free. There's creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more. You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. Welcome, everyone, to the L7C podcast. Today, we have a very special episode for you all today, continuing our Women's History Month podcast episodes. This month, we have Dr. Cassie Lowry with us. How are you doing today?
I am doing fantabulous, Mr. Martin.
Fantabulous. There's the word of the day, everyone. Fantabulous. So today we are going to be talking about Sailor Moon. For those of you who don't know, Cassie is a big Sailor Moon fan. So we're going to ask her what got her into Sailor Moon, what does she like about Sailor Moon, the cultural impact Sailor Moon has had on generations of women across the world, and who's her favorite character, least favorite, and we'll go from there.
Sounds good.
So Cassie, what got you into Sailor Moon?
I actually have watched Sailor Moon since I think I was in like third grade. I had a friend who really liked it, and it was probably the first like anime that I actually got into because Sailor Moon was kind of like the female gateway into anime, and the male gateway was like Dragon Ball Z, which I watched a little bit of Dragon Ball Z, but I don't know that it was quite as consistent for me as maybe it was for like other people. But I thought it was really cool to like, oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
No, I just thought it was really cool to like see females like be in that kind of position because I know that we are excited about the fact that like Captain Marvel is one of the people that is at the forefront of that now. And I think obviously it was animated, so it was a little bit different when we were younger, but I think that kind of played that role when we were in the 90s.
No, I agree. And it was really different because if you think about back then, like animated things wise, they were the complete opposite. They were anti-Disney princess.
Mm-hmm.
Like, because at our time, that's when all the Disney movies were coming out, princess being saved or things like that by a guy. And these 5 women were the main characters of their show, and they were the focal point, and they were the ones saving the people.
Yeah, and I think that's a huge point too. Is like, not to say like tuxedo. In the Americanized version of Sailor Moon, Tuxedo Mask, for better or for worse, is basically kind of useless. I think it was a little bit mean to do that to him in the Americanized version. But like he's also still not like the forefront of that. Like he's not the forefront even in like the Japanese original version.
Mm-hmm.
So it was just an interesting thing to like, I don't know, as a kid, I always wanted to be like the strongest person, but obviously I was a female. So I was never the person that was like asked to like move stuff or do any like more manly stuff. Even if I was stronger than every boy around me. So I always thought that was kind of cool, was to like, it was like a role model in a way, I guess.
Do you think the cultural like impact of Sailor Moon resonates with not just like people of our generation, but like women younger, older, like across the world? Like, what's their cultural impact?
So I think one of the really cool things about Sailor Moon is like it was obviously really big when like we were younger, but the other thing is like if you look now, like it's come back. Like it's stuff that's being sold in Target now. And I think that one of the bigger pieces that we kind of fail to talk about when we talk about Sailor Moon is like, yeah, it's like 5 women that are doing awesome things and saving the world. But the other part is like it normalizes like being a normal person and being able to do these great things too. Because like Serena or Usagi is an absolute crybaby and barely can stand upright for most of the show, but she's the one that's like kicking ass and basically is the leader. But I think the other piece is that I think we thought of ourselves as progressive when we were in the 1990s, but the reality is we weren't really. But for like Sailor Moon, at least when it came to America, one of the bigger pieces is that like there was the first LGBTQ couple represented, and there's also, unfortunately, we never got to see Stars in an English version, which is like the very last season of Sailor Moon, which I believe never came to the United States because it was considered too risky. But if you watch like the Japanese version, they also like normalize like gender fluidity, which is even, I would say, much more recent for the like United States than like being accepting of LGBTQ people. So I mean, like those were things that like were happening. I'm what, 30 at this point, like 25 years ago in Japanese culture. So I mean, it was even like ahead of our cultural norms in terms of like other things other than just feminism.
I thought the LGBTQ couple got changed to cousins in America, or is that someone else that got changed? I thought something of that got changed in Sailor Moon.
I forget exactly because the problem is I just watched like the Crystal version, so it all runs a little bit together because the Crystal version stays a little bit more true to the original. The other thing is I have the original like non-dubbed version of Sailor Moon that I've watched more recently than the old one because the voices now annoy me from the childhood one that I used to watch. But I want to say that maybe there was a little bit of like a gender switch when we were kids where like Uranus turned from a male to a female.
Oh.
So I think that might have been the way that they got away around like the LGBTQ piece because I'm pretty sure they were still a couple. Maybe they were cousins at one point, but I mean, like something changed where it made it less obvious, if nothing else. So
when they because I see things how like the girls were like super relatable, especially in her English name Serena, about like not knowing what you want, like trying to juggle all your responsibilities as Sailor Moon, and then you're still going to school, and then you add all the other crazy things. Do a lot of like women relate in that sense of like trying to juggle so many different things and still trying to keep a head on their shoulders?
yeah, I mean, I think that's a really big piece that's relatable is like one of the nice things about Serena or Usagi was the fact that she was a little like ditzy. So like it wasn't necessarily like we were just like looking at like the people who were like 130 IQs, which I mean, when we look at people like, I mean, and don't get me wrong, I love Captain Marvel and I love the fact that we see her as a very intelligent woman who does lots of really, really great things. But I think Sailor Moon kind of like normalized it to just be like a normal person that can do really incredible things. And then, I mean, on top of it, like, yeah, I mean, females juggle a lot, probably not quite as like clearly as the way that Sailor Moon portrays it, just because they're in high school. But yeah, I mean, like every woman is really juggling like multiple identities at all times. And I think that's kind of like a more subtle play in the background of everything.
So with Sailor Moon 2, which English version, the theme song is iconic. Do you like the theme song?
I mean, to be fair, I'd watched Sailor Moon for so long. I just get tired of listening to theme songs, if I'm going to be perfectly honest.
You don't want to hear dancing in the moonlight? What?
I mean, I think it has a great message. Would I listen to it like another 500 times? Probably not. Especially when there's an option to skip the intro. I think it does have a good message, especially if you're like starting to watch Sailor Moon. But again, I'm not somebody who's going to sit and watch the intro to every show that I ever watch either. So,
saying like that song, like people, I think a lot of people don't realize like how like iconic that song is and how it gets memeified. And it's like, of course, from back then, everyone can sing the Pokemon theme song, but you can get a lot of people. You start singing that Sailor Moon theme song, people can hop in on that. And like with Sailor Moon, and when people do like their Mount Rushmores of anime, I always say like you have to at least have one spot for them because they, like you said at the beginning, they opened the door for like women to like really like dive into anime. It's like, oh, I like Sailor Moon. What other? Oh, there's this anime and this and this and that. So
Yeah. I mean, I think that's the big thing though, is like I can never say the creator's name correctly, but she really opened like a door for a lot of females to really love anime. And I think a lot of people look at anime and manga, sorry, and think like, oh, that's just some like weird version of like a comic book. And it's like it. I mean, almost every manga you ever look at is more of a novel than anything.
Yeah.
You can definitely get them in like comic book version, but like you're usually looking at probably like 100 pages of like content. But yeah, I mean, like it was definitely like it's like your starter pack. You either started with like Dragon Ball or you started with Sailor Moon, and sometimes you started with both.
I think it's kind of funny too. Like at this point, like in the 30s and all that jazz. Like when we were younger, obviously like comics and like anime and all that stuff, that was for the quote unquote nerds. But now, if you're not into anime and you're not into like the DC Marvel movies, you're the one labeled as a nerd because these are the biggest things entertainment wise going right now.
I mean, it's cool because now we have money to like buy all the stuff
that
that's
is
out.
True.
But like, I used to beg my parents to like deep dive on the internet to find like Sailor Moon stuff, like getting something for like Christmas or my birthday was like a big deal because like you had to like deep dive. Now you walk into a Hot Topic and there's like 20 different things of all of these different things. And I'm like, you guys have no idea like what the pain and suffering that we had to go through.
Oh, I 100% agree, especially during Halloween, especially if we wanted to be anything anime related outside of like Pokemon. Because like I remember my brother went as Pikachu, but those are easy to get. Like I wanted to go as like a Dragon Ball Z character, so they had to scour the earth, like things like.
Or you had to make your own.
Or you had to make your own.
And then it was hard to even know what you were doing anyway.
You were cosplaying before cosplaying was a thing.
Yes. There was something I was going to say, but I can't remember what it was.
But you brought up money, though, which is a good segue from this article from Yahoo Finance. And this was in 2001, so it's probably made more. Over like 30 years, Sailor Moon has, like just the whole brand in general, has resulted in $13 billion in merchandise sales.
Not surprised at that at all.
And that's 2021, so it's probably way up now because obviously there's cosplayers who have to buy the stuff. You said, the Hot Topic T-shirts are down. There's the toys, everything, video games, movies.
Literally. So like when I was a kid, I remember I had a jean jacket because jean jackets were a big thing then. But my dad paid somebody one for, so like my brother had one that was Scooby-Doo, but then I got one that was Sailor Moon, and he like paid somebody like an enormous amount of money because you couldn't buy stuff like that.
Yeah.
You had to get it like custom made, or you had to like order it directly from Japan. And basically you had to be able to read Japanese because otherwise you didn't know what you're paying. And now like I just walk in everywhere and I'm like, this is just rude at this point. So I don't know. I mean,
everyone's into it. I mean, there was a time where Captain Marvel was just coming out, and I forget the artist who did it, but made Brie Larson Captain Marvel in a Sailor Moon attire thing.
Oh yeah, I saw that.
And then she like absolutely, because she understands, because Brie Larson is literally like our same age range, so it's like so just like mixing those crossover things. So what things did you like the most about Sailor Moon?
The things that I like the most about Sailor Moon. So, I mean, I just thought it was really cool to like have somebody that like mildly represented me. Like I loved Sailor Jupiter because I thought she was the coolest thing ever, and she kind of looked like me. But the other thing is like like Sailor Jupiter was like Louisa before Louisa
was a thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
I mean, like that's the thing though. Like it's so interesting to see like not only like the cultural differences like between like the United States and Japan, but like all of these characters have different dynamics within their families. And I think it just, I don't know. I mean, I loved everything that there was to love about Sailor Moon. I would be lying if I didn't love the fact that like it was this like big, like romanticized like idea of what you could do and like be like this superhero and be all cool and stuff. But I mean, I think the biggest part was just like it was just a female, like a big female, like example of things that you could do.
So I think you just answered my next question because I was going to ask who your favorite one was, but it's sounding like it was Jupiter. So who was your least favorite character? And outside of Tuxedo Mask, because you already said he was not great.
I loved Tuxedo Mask.
Oh, okay.
Tuxedo Mask was my first like true crush as a child.
True crush as a
However, looking back, I'm like, damn, dude, you were useless. My least favorite. So I had like a love-hate relationship with Sailor Uranus.
Okay.
I liked her for certain reasons because I thought she was strong, like cool, badass. But then she was also really cocky, which also like rubbed me the wrong way. But my least favorite would probably be Sailor Mars because I thought she was just extremely prickly for no reason a lot of the time. Like she just was a hothead. And I was like, damn, like I get it, but I also like calm yourself down. So I would say, yeah, probably Sailor Mars.
Do you think they get downplayed by some people, like anime people, because they're women? Because when you have like those whole anime who would beat who thing, and then they leave out the say like the girls, and all of them are like galactic level powered individuals, especially if like you continue watching and you see how strong they get. Do you think they like get underestimated?
As much as I hate to say this, I feel like the way that Sailor Moon is portrayed in like the broader anime like aspect is kind of consistent with the way that women in general get portrayed. I think that Sailor Moon in general, like as much as I love it, like I would say that it was kind of seen as like the soft anime, because it is your like entrance gateway kind of like drug anime. I feel like it never got taken very seriously because it was so popular. Like you didn't get to be like a cool edgy person if you were into Sailor Moon because like theoretically everybody knew Sailor Moon. But I think that the same thing's kind of true of women. Like we play this double-edged sword at all times. Like you can be a boss, but then you're automatically a bitch. Like you can be like really strong and opinionated, but then you're like alienating other people. And I think that as much as I hate to say it, like I think it kind of like in all honesty just reflects the way that like a lot of women get portrayed, at least in America. And maybe probably other places too, obviously. But I think the reality is like we have these conversations constantly about, you know, like different personality types. And I mean, Taylor Swift I like in general, but like there's a song that she came out with probably most recently, like that she'd basically get there quicker if she was a man. And I don't mean that like in a, like, I don't think men are shitty or anything like that because of that. But like the reality is like we're set up in a male culture. So if you're a man, you have certain aspects that lead you to better places than if you're a female. Granted, I mean, there's a whole 5 bazillion layers to like different privileges. Like there's a lot of white privilege and there's a lot of male privilege and there's white female privilege. You just get to play the game of where you fall on the totem pole, unfortunately. But I think that like that's kind of, I don't know, probably got a little too in depth there.
That is perfect.
But yeah, I think it gets overlooked or like just seen as like you're playing like kindergarten anime.
Fair enough. Is there anything you would change if you could like rewrite Sailor Moon? Is there any like plot points you would want to add or subtract?
I don't know if there's any plot points. I think the reality is like everything kind of builds. The other piece is like it's been a while since I watched the original, and I feel like making a comment on the English version is just not fair, because I think that the original creator, I literally would say her name, but I would butcher it so badly. I think she did a really great job from what I remember when I watched like the unedited, like undubbed version.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that it just, the Americanized version does it like such poor justice. So I don't know that it's necessarily the show so much as like what we did to it. I would have loved to have seen the 5th season come in to America, but I think it was dubbed as being like too sexualized, if I remember correctly, is the reason it never came, which is hilarious to me because we sit here and I mean, I think that a lot of us think that our like culture is very risky, and it's
now it is, yeah.
Well, even now, like I don't know that it's as risky as it is other places, or at least like we consider something risky that's just like normal other places.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's kind of like an interesting kind of take on that.
And her name, Naoko, the creator of Sailor Moon, first name, Naoko, obviously. And side note for people who don't know, she is married to Yurishiro, who is the creator of another very popular 90s anime, Yu Yu Hakusho. And he is the creator of Hunter x Hunter. So probably one of the most creative Japanese manga artist couples of all time, and they've been married since 1999.
I'm not surprised by that at all.
So then now in 2022, like what lessons from Sailor Moon should people, like if you were to like give a class on like here's how Sailor Moon relates to 2022, what lessons would you like tell students, men and women, to see from that show?
I think that like the biggest thing is like to never underestimate yourself. I mean, for the love of God, like Serena is the klutziest person on the face of the earth, mm-hmm. and somehow manages to like basically save the world. Like, I don't even know how many times at this point. But I think the other thing is like having a diverse group of friends is such an important thing, because like none of them are like the exact same. Like they've all got their own, like you got the brainy one, you got the strong one, you got the like fiery one, mm-hmm. You got the sweet and loving one. And I think that like the reality is like Sailor Moon was about like acceptance. Apparently I can't talk today, so there's that. But I mean, like the biggest thing is like we watched this anime because there was something in it for everybody. And I think that the reality is like, whether we're different or we're the same, like we can all get along on like some level. Mm-hmm. And I mean, there are people that when we look backwards at like Sailor Moon, or we try to take things into like the idea, we get so stuck on like being different that we forget that like we all have like similar things going on. And like if you watch Sailor Moon, like there are so many different things. And the one thing that I was actually looking at right before I got on here is like even people that we see as like villains, mm-hmm. like they have reasons why they became villains. And I think sometimes we forget that, especially now, is like we all kind of get on our quests to like do better, mm-hmm. is that we forget that there's reasons that people are the way that they are. And I think that's a huge aspect to just like in general understanding the world. And I think that to a degree, like watching Sailor Moon reminds us of that. Because I mean, there were several villains that you come to feel for at the end of it. I mean, obviously they all like eventually are dismissed and gone. But like even Sailor Moon, who's like fighting for like people's lives. Oh dear. I don't know how that happened. But even people who like Sailor Moon was there to like literally stop because they were going to destroy the world. Like she had a soft place in her heart for those people, like, and could understand and like relate to them and like help them.
How come there's not a Sailor Earth?
So that is because Tuxedo Mask is technically Sailor Earth.
What?
Did you not know that?
I did not know that.
Yeah. So, I mean, if you go back, and I mean, this is what happens when you like deep dive nerd into Sailor Moon.
Mhm.
So and this probably would have became clear had the 5th season ever arrived in the United States, because we don't really find out this stuff until like the 5th season.
Mhm.
But if you get to the 5th season, spoiler alert if you haven't seen it, you'll find out that Sailor Earth is technically Tuxedo Mask, because he actually holds what we consider, I think, the gold crystal.
Wow.
So like Sailor Moon has a silver crystal, he has a gold crystal, and those are like their life forms.
Mhm.
But Tuxedo Mask was the protector of Earth when he was Prince Endymion.
Okay.
And then she was the protector of the moon because she was Princess Serenity. So yeah, that's why there's no Sailor Earth.
How about freaking that? Just learned something. That is cool.
It is. I mean, in all honesty, if you ever want to see the last season, I got it.
When I've watched Sailor Moon, I had no idea that he was technically Sailor Earth. Wow. Hot damn. Cassie, anything else you want to say about Sailor Moon and the impact before you get to close the show?
I don't think so, to be honest with you.
All right.
I think that, I mean, Sailor Moon kind of speaks for itself. The things come back like 5 or 6 times at this point, and I'm only 30. And I mean,
it's a
literally, I walked into Barnes and Noble, and there's a whole new like in-depth set of the mangas.
Mm-hmm.
So I would actually really like to see what those look like in their like original comic book form, because I think there'd be like a bazillion of them at this point.
Well, since it is Women's History Month, and you guys have been listening to the Women's History Month podcast throughout all the ladies on here, you know that Cassie gets to end the show, and the floor is yours.
Well, thanks everybody for listening, and I hope that you're having a wonderful Women's History Month. But what I want you to do is to think about all of the great things that the women in your life have done, and that the women before you have done for you. Because I think that a lot of times we like think about how we're moving forward, but it's important to think about like what's come before us as well, because those are the people that have paved the path to let us get to where we are. So I will see you later. Don't forget to subscribe so that you can keep hearing all of the great podcasts that come.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the L7C podcast. Be sure to like, rate, review, and subscribe to the channel. Follow us on all social media platforms, and we'll be talking to you guys soon. Take care.